Hi, welcome to our podcast. We discuss everyday people whose lives are on the front lines of the legal industry and the technology they use to innovate, and how the changes are affecting them and the clients they work with. I'm your host, Luke Connolly,
And I'm your other host, Nelson Sher.
and we're happy to have you come along with us. Today, we're going to be talking about the intersection of technology and the legal industry and talking to real people who are on the front lines, navigating all the changes in that process and realizing the impacts as well. So in this episode, we actually sit down with Katie Reed. She's a personal injury and disability attorney whose journey into law was shaped by deeply personal experiences, from her father's incarceration to her husband's life-altering accident. Katie is going to share how these moments inspired her passion for justice, empathy for her clients, and commitment to making the legal system more accessible. She's now designated as her firm's AI research lead, which is pretty cool. And she's pioneering ways to integrate artificial intelligence into high-volume legal practices, from analyzing medical records to streamlining casework while navigating the challenges of change management within her firm. Her story is one of resilience, innovation, and redefining what it means to practice law in the age of technology. So we're happy to have Katie Reed with us this morning. Hey, Katie, we're so glad that you took time to sit down with us today. We're excited about exploring kind of this idea of technology, the legal industry, kind of where the two are meeting, and sitting down with real practitioners who are navigating those changes. So we kind of have some questions, interview style, that we'd love to ask, but we really just want to get to know, kind of to start, who you are and kind of more about your personal journey into where you're at. So could you kind of take us back to what inspired you to become a lawyer?
Yeah, I appreciate y'all having me and getting the chance to share my story.
Yeah.
Um, so my father was actually incarcerated when I was in elementary school. I have always been a very anxious person, especially as a young child, and I love to read. So as a second grader, I didn't understand what was going on at all. Um, but there was a book in the library on law, and I checked that book out over and over and over again, and to the point that the librarian actually gave it to me because it was one of the older books in the library and was actually being held together with tape. And that's when I decided that one day that I would be an attorney, that I wanted to help people like my family, like my dad, um, navigate the system.
Okay. That's pretty heavy. At the same time, that's like a neat way to get started. It is different, and but I'm interested. How did, in that process of your father's incarceration, how did that kind of shape your interest toward law and being drawn to that book in the library?
It it really helped me or showed me how the legal system affects not just the person that's a part of the lawsuit or the case, right? It's so much more than just the parties involved. Um, it, I felt powerless as a kid going through it. There was nothing I could do to help the situation. And I've always been a fixer, as some
Mhm.
would describe. Um, but becoming an attorney would give me the power to be that fixer, to help other people. And so that just kind of is what planted the seed for having, access, more human interaction, helping people navigate and understand. And it's ironic that I didn't eventually go into criminal law or criminal defense, but that's kind of another part of the story.
Interesting. Okay. Thanks for sharing
um,
that. You have mentioned previously to us that you've had some work experience with groups like MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, as well as you've worked in a DA's office, kind of on the front lines of those types of situations that you've just explained to us. What did you learn from that?
yeah, and that's kind of the other part of the story that I guess I alluded to a little bit. After college, I took a job with Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Um, After I finished my undergraduate at Georgia Southern in justice studies, and I took a job as a victim advocate. So my job was to go with victims. Most of the time, they were the surviving spouse or parent of someone that had been killed in a vehicular homicide by intoxication, all over East Tennessee. And the main part of my job was to go to court with them um, and help them understand what was happening, what the judge was saying. What is this pretrial hearing? What's a sentencing hearing? And just kind of walk them through those steps. Um, and before that, before I had graduated, I had interned at the DA's office. And so those two experiences kind of changed my look on the criminal law. And while I think defense work is incredibly important and everyone deserves the right to a great defense, I knew that because of my work at MAD, I couldn't defend DUIs. I just didn't feel like it was fair to the people that I had worked for. And I don't, it wasn't a great business decision to become a criminal defense attorney and not defend DUIs. So in law school, once I started law school, I kind of made that switch over and thought I was going to work at the DA's office. And then I realized I was going to have a lot of student loan debt. And forgiveness was not guaranteed. And I have two boys, and I didn't want them to have student loan debt. When I started college, neither of my parents had a bachelor's degree. And so this college experience was completely new for my family. And so I didn't want that for my boys. I didn't want them to have to take out those loans. And so I took torts and loved torts. And I started looking into personal injury. And I was like, well, I could do this and I could still help people on a different side of the law, that maybe not be as limited in a government salary. And so that's kind of how I made that transition.
I like that. How did you also practice disability law though, right?
I do.
Yeah. So that's, those two, whereas they're similar, it's like there is some big differences.
There is.
Drew you into disability law?
So that is another life experience. My husband had an accident Memorial Day weekend of 24. He was sitting on the tailgate of his truck. He was helping my sister move and installing her washer and had cut his finger. And he got lightheaded, so he went to sit down and he passed out. And he went head first off the tailgate of his truck and broke his neck. Then a piece of his vertebrae went into his spinal cord, and he was instantly paralyzed from his chest down.
Oh, wow.
He has had a miraculous recovery. And we're very, very, very grateful. He can walk now.
That's awesome.
He got into surgery very quickly, and we attribute a lot to that, and had some great rehab at Shepherd Center in Atlanta. But that experience and that recovery process and getting to know the other patients at Shepherd in Atlanta really opened my eyes to the world of disability. We have a pretty large disability practice at my firm that's continually growing, and they were looking for assistance. And instead of hiring someone from the outside, it made sense to the firm and I that I had a heart now for helping people like my husband. And so that's how I made that switch over and started practicing disability law earlier this year. And it's been great. I really enjoy it.
Wow, I love that story. I can relate tremendously with that story in my own personal, like, just overcoming injuries and what disabilities, how they affect individuals. How has that changed the way you interact with your clients? I'm assuming it has tremendously.
It has. I think it really helps me understand them more and give them more grace, be more empathetic to what they're going through. I also think it truly helps with the burnout.
Yeah.
Um, be- I feel like as attorneys and maybe even as administrative law judges or workers' comp judges, we see people with injuries all the time that we just kind of become numb
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
these injuries. And our clients are living in like the worst part of their life. Um,
Yeah.
and, they know that they weren't always like this. And so it can help, it has helped me take a step back and remind myself these are their darkest days
Mm.
and they're coming to you because they so desperately need help. Um, don't become numb to what they're going through. And I try to remind my staff that as well. So it's not only helped me, but I'm in a relatively small firm,
Mhm.
and the team here was incredibly supportive of my husband and I. And so reminding them, hey, you saw me go through this. Think
Yeah.
about me when you're talking to them and you're frustrated because you're listening to your fifth client today. Like, this is a huge deal to every single person that you talk to.
Yeah. Yeah. That's powerful. That it's so important to stay grounded in the work that you do. And if being able to draw a direct line to like what the impact is, that's so powerful. Such a huge motivator. Thanks for sharing those things. I know that's probably not always easy to just share like that. I'd love to hear kind of like something about some of your client, like something memorable, like that like a big win that you got to have for a client or something like that.
Yeah. So I can actually tell you, and it kind of ties into my husband's accident as well. So
Okay.
it's a nice
Perfect.
circle.
Love that.
Um, so m- one of the cases that I have worked on, I actually had a client that was at Shepherd Center for a brain
Okay.
injury. Um, and her physician actually reached out to me. It was a denied workers' comp case. Um, and it, it's a very niche injury. Um, he reached out to us. He said it was like one of the only times in his career that he's actually reached out to an attorney to help get something done. And causation was a big issue there.
Mm.
Did what happened at work, was that what caused she had had a stroke? Um, and so that connection is actually what got my husband admitted to Shepherd.
Mm.
Um, but once we came home, actually while we were in the hospital, she came down for a post discharge checkup. And so I got to sit in the hospital cafeteria with her and her caregiver and have lunch. Um, and because of her injury, initially she couldn't talk. And
Mm.
so those were the first times I got to hear her say words.
Oh,
Um, and then since I got home and got back to work, I got to go visit her and see her stand for the first time. And so it- it's like our stories are kind of intertwined, but also, we were able to successfully get her workers' comp case covered, and she's getting care through the workers' comp system. Um, and that care is, giving her, now she can talk and she can stand. And so that was a huge win for us. Um, and I am forever grateful for her and her case because it helped my own family with those connections too.
that's awesome. I love hearing the stories. The
Yes.
stories are so important. But
And the stories are what keep you going, right?
yeah,
Those wins, those, because it's not always a win in this line of work, but the wins help you get through the losses.
yeah, and you got to humanize it, right? Like it. Otherwise, it's just a piece of paper, right? And you read it. It's a different kind of story when you read it like that. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I also work as a mentor for students that are going through my law school. And we meet once a semester and talk about different things like resilience and empathy, are two of the topics. And I have told the students that, the empathy that you have for your clients and what they're going to will drive you and give you that resilience to keep going. And so that's a huge factor.
Love that. That's perfect. You give a master class on that. So I think that's a good spot for you to be in. I like that.
I enjoy it a
Gives
whole
me
lot.
hope for the future lawyers who are being shown really that's where it matters,
Yeah.
human factor. You can't disregard that.
No.
Yeah. Well, let's get into like some of the challenges of being a lawyer now. Like what is a typical time frame for like working one of these cases, and what are some of the biggest challenges you face?
I think in disability cases, we're looking at 2 to 3 years, right? If we've got to take something to a hearing level, in a workers' comp case, we can be looking at a year to. I just closed my oldest case was 4 years old.
Mhm.
Um, the human body takes time to heal, and so when you're dealing with cases that have injuries, you have to kind of wait those out. Even our car wreck cases, we have a 1-year statute of limitation here in Tennessee, but
Mm.
often our cases go longer than that because sometimes we don't even know where the client when the client's going to be done treating. What are their medicals actually going to be? Um, so a lot of our cases here run, you know, 18 months on an average.
It's a long time.
Going to be longer if it's a disability or workers' comp case. And so that's a lot of contact for your client too. Um, and they very much become, parts of your everyday life because you're talking to these people in and out for, 18 months, 2 years. And so um, it, I would say, caseload wise, we have a higher caseload than most, and we have great teams to help support that. Um, but there are certainly days where I can be on the phone all day long because of client contact and client needs.
Yeah.
And that can get hard when you have other things that you need to do, like administrative or legal research or
Mhm.
medical record summaries or file review. Um, I'm never bored. It's certainly always busy, and I generally work after I put my boys to bed.
Yeah. Nelson and I can both relate with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Katie, when we first met, you say, "Hey, I'm the AI research lead for the firm." Right? That was very interesting. Like, how did you become that role or that position?
um, I think by happenstance, I am probably the most technologically inclined person at the firm. At least I was earlier this year. I have held the role as the youngest attorney at my firm from the time I started until this past March.
Yeah.
Um, and so eh, I just have naturally gotten all the technology things, but I am also an AI user in my own life.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with ADHD actually while I was studying for the bar exam. Um, and AI has been incredibly helpful in managing my executive function skills, managing my time, both in my personal and professional life. Um, and y- it has been a huge tool
Mm.
um, in helping me navigate those more administrative tasks so that I can focus more on client contact at work too. Um,
Great. Yeah. Can you give us some examples, like in the office, away from the office? What are some of the tools that you use day to day?
I'm a ChatGPT user.
Okay.
Um, I can use it in my personal life as simple as I need my son started kindergarten this year, and so I have my oldest is at kindergarten, my youngest is still at daycare. I need to get somewhere by 5:30. I
Hmm.
work here. I have one kid here. My other kid's here. What time do I need to leave work?
Wow.
Um,
I love it.
and
Very
I'm
tight.
not a time person. I have no concept of time. And so it helped me. It helped me decide what time I needed to leave work.
Yeah.
Um, Making grocery lists.
Oh,
But even outside of chat, I'm a Plod AI user, so it's a recorder.
yeah.
It helps me record client calls or adjuster calls or meetings. Um, and then I have drafted prompts into their system. And so I can upload my recording and click a prompt, and it makes my case note that I can put into our case management system. It produces a letter for the client. Hey, we met today. This is what we talked about. These are the action steps. Um, I- I've had a phone call with like a car wreck adjuster or a work comp adjuster. We settled this case. Hey, confirming we settled this case. Here's our hold harmless letter and the instructions to write the check. It's taking those administrative tasks away, and making things a whole lot easier, and also helping us document, what we're doing on a day-to-day basis better. And then, of course, I came to you all to help find that medical record side and the chronology side, because medical records are a huge part of our disability, of our car wreck, of our workers' comp practice. Um, and I am certainly not a doctor. So it
Right.
takes me a lot longer to read a medical record.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever get that fast at it, but implementing the Superinsight AI software to help us go through those medical records, um, and has made me smarter about what I'm looking at, right?
Awesome.
And faster.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. That's kind of like the good side of AI, right? But we hear all the time, like you have attorneys who completely trust it, don't check the source document and just let it go, let it fly. And then you have some won't even touch it and say, I don't trust it. Like, why do you think there's two type of behavior, within the same practices?
I think it's just the change. I think everyone fears change. Everyone fears the unknown. But I also think as humans, we're naturally lazy and we're looking for the easy way out.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
AI can't do the work for you.
Mhm.
It's a tool to help you do the work. And, I'm always shocked when I see somebody that's getting in trouble because they've submitted a brief that has fake case law in it. We all know better than that.
Yeah, that's the
We
one
have
that keeps
seen it
happening.
all.
That's the one that keeps happening.
But we've had a lot of pushback here, in some of our support staff, um, thinking that AI is gonna take their jobs or gonna replace them. And what I've told the support staff is it's not gonna replace your job
Mhm.
because there has to be a human side to AI. There has to be
Yeah.
that safety net, that person that's checking it. But what will replace you is someone that knows how to use AI and will implement it and all of a sudden can do their work faster.
Yeah.
And so if we want to compete, um, which is the nature of our business, right?
Yeah.
There are plenty of personal injury firms. There are lots of injury cases.
Yeah.
But if you want clients, you need to know how to use AI so that you can do things better, faster, and be more informed. Um, and so that's given them some good insight and has helped encourage people give it a try.
Yeah.
And for us, once we were able to show our support staff what it could do and how it could help them, it really changed their tune,
Mhm.
on being more willing to use it.
I said, yeah, that makes sense. So, a lot of people feared, well, if AI is so productive, then I don't need to spend so much more time per case, then I'll be out of the job. But there's also an argument, well, maybe we can take a lot more cases. We can help a lot more people. How do you think that dynamic will change now? More firms are using AI, everybody's more productive, and let's say everybody keep their staffs, right? Does it help more people in need because of AI? What do you think about that?
I think it can certainly help you take more cases. I've heard the saying that we all have the same 24 hours, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
And we all need that work-life balance, right, too. So if it can help you be more productive during your work hours, then that gives you more of that balance to have time at home. So maybe we're not working once we put our kids to bed
Right.
or working on the weekends. Um, but also, I think it's going to help us take on more hearings from a disability side and being able to help more people. Um, because I know, personally here at our firm, when I started doing the disability work, we physically could not schedule any more hearings because we didn't have enough attorneys to do so. Um, and so that adding me and then adding the AI is allowing us to have more hearings because it's cutting down that hearing prep time. Um, but at the same time, it does take a little bit more time to learn how to use it.
Yeah.
And you still can't blindly trust it. But I would also say that not only is it helping us take on more clients, it's helping us be more prepared and informed um, when we're prepping the file. And I say that something that I would never understand or pick up in a medical record, like a random acronym that's a test that I don't know about because I've never experienced. There's a lot of medical conditions out there, and you're not going to be the expert in everything, especially when you're dealing with disability law.
Right.
It picked up on those, explained to me what those were, and I was like, oh, that's a great argument now that I can give to the judge
Yeah.
that I would have never understood beforehand. So yes, more cases, but also I would say better outcomes because it's making better attorneys.
Yeah. Very
That's good.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So when I met Luke, he came from a veterans background and then he was, badly injured. And then when AI came along a couple of years ago, it's like, well, there got to be something that AI can do to help veterans booking medical records and helping other people. So that's
Yeah.
how we got started, right, Luke? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's a big push. A big part of my story personally relates with a lot of your story from that
Yeah,
standpoint.
I can certainly relate.
Yeah.
The VA helped a lot with my husband's accident care um,
Good.
because he had a catastrophic injury. The VA stepped up and helped with his recovery, and I have had clients that are veterans that use the VA, and it is not easy to read those medical records, and they are certainly lengthy.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's actually
In some ways, it actually made us better because we had to start there.
yeah,
Like we had to start with a whole lot of mess. There's a lot of things the VA can do well, but they are not great at structuring medical records.
it's actually funny that you say that because I was talking with one of our other attorneys here yesterday and showing them how to use Superinsight, and the whole reason was he has a hearing coming up with VA records, and he wants to make sure that he's not missing anything.
Yeah. Good. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're always happy to help with that. So, Katie, if there's one takeaway you could kind of leave our listeners with to remember from your story, what would it be?
Um, and I've thought a lot about this question.
Mhm.
I think the takeaway is that resilience and curiosity and then wanting to learn can turn your hardest experiences into sources of strength and improvement. Um, and so we're always learning, things are always changing. We all go through hard times, and that's just life. Some of us have harder times than others, but we can use the learning and the hard times to better ourselves and then better the lives of our clients. Um, and the learning aspect, I think accepting the change and AI is a big part of that. Um, I think it all goes hand in hand. And at the end of the day, the law is about people. And when we use our tools thoughtfully, um, those tools can help us better serve those people.
That's a great takeaway. I love it. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that should be everybody's takeaway, honestly. But no, on the veteran side, I could tell you, like, the community of veterans, like there's kind of a similar ethos that's starting to propagate, which is good. And it's this idea of what you just kind of highlighted for us. And it was coined by a guy named Scott Mann, who actually is a great leader and teacher of this, about storytelling. But it's the idea of being generous with your scars. And so today, we just want to thank you for being generous with your scars, as
Well,
well
thank you.
as for you having that care for your clients and kind of stewardship over theirs.
Well, thank you. I am honored to get to share our story. Um, my husband and I both have always said that we will never know why.
Yeah.
What is the why? Why did that have to happen? Why does he have to live with, the spinal cord injury that he's had? But, and we wouldn't wish that on anyone. I wouldn't wish what my clients are going through on anyone. But it is also the best and worst thing that has ever happened to us. It has made us better people. It has made me a better attorney. And if our story can help, just one person
Yeah.
or one client, then to us, it's worth it. And um, I am happy to share anytime because that's our motto, right? Just one person.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that really concludes our time with you today, Katie. But we're just, again, thank you for being generous with your time and sharing with us. Love your story. Tell your husband, thank you for being generous with his story. And we hope the best for you.
I will. Thank you all so much for having me, and for creating a tool that I now use pretty much on a daily basis.
Awesome.
And
Awesome. We love it. All right. Go tell the world
perfect.
about it.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Katie.